What is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We are days away from the 2024 WWE Royal Rumble. As we talk right now, Okada seems to be the biggest free agent that there is in the world of wrestling right now today. It was announced yesterday that the rumors were true, that Okada was leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. The New Japan Global site tweeted it out that they'd come to the agreement that he was leaving. The only reason that's really out there for, like, I guess you can say close to like the John Cena of New Japan to be leaving the company has been made public by Brian Alvarez on his radio show, where he basically said that Okada for years has been underpaid. This has been one of the guys that has gone to Wrestle Reunion, wrestled in one of the biggest matches for them each and every year, supporting this company. I know that New Japan will always have a next guy up kind of attitude, but Okada has been one of the guys that they've wanted to keep around for a long time. I can remember Okada wrestling for TNA. New Japan had sent him over I think it was before 2010. It was around the same time that the Young Bucks were actually in TNA at the same time. It might have been around the time of like the Hogan and Bischoff era. Trying to get him more exposure for where U.S. fans would come accustomed to him. But I remember stories around like 2015, 2016, where he was actually coming over to the States and he was flirting with WWE. Triple H has always had Okada as like one of the guys like circled, like he's the next guy up, the next guy that they got to get into the company. Had tried to get him in for NXT. I think that they've tried to get him in for going right to the main roster of things, and it's never really worked out because he's wanted to stay home. But he's ready to spread his wings. He probably knows that he's at a place in his career where it's probably going to be one of his biggest chances to jump before it's too late. And he can't actually do what he's done. I think everybody knows that Okada, they've had the burst where everybody had to go out and get New Japan to watch Wrestle Kingdom. I know I was caught up in it from like 2015 to like roughly around 2018. This year, I think I had it in the back of my mind, but I didn't even hear the talk of like people planning like an all night, kind of like stay up and watch New Japan kind of a deal. I remember having to explain it to like my kids, explain it to my girlfriend at the time of like why I wanted to watch wrestling from Japan that didn't even come on until 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was going to be probably making noise in the living room until the time it was for her to go to work. It's kind of a weird thing. Hey, it's only going to happen this one time, but it's got to happen. But as of right now, it's not really known which way he's going. And I know that he already has a TNA booking that he's going to be working for them. It is kind of like early for him to immediately jump and go right to WWE's Royal Rumble, making it an entrance at this event. But it honestly is probably one of the biggest chances for him to do it. I remember that WWE, they made the chance for Samoa Joe to kind of jump from NXT to the main roster in that like kind of time period between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And he really got lost in his jump to the main roster, where he was left off of WrestleMania, and it kind of made him look like he wasn't the star that he was. And it's kind of like one of those things where, when people get accustomed to like being a star in NXT and then they make the jump to the main roster, where, it's like they're trying to run on ice and they're like kind of like, it's like slippery. They can't get the jump to really be there. Either that, or sometimes people come right onto the main roster and they make a big splash, and then all of a sudden when that storyline dries up, they have nowhere to go to. They fall back, they get lost into the shuffle. It's almost the same thing when guys go into AEW. They make their debut and they sort of get lost there. I know that because of the relationship with the Young Bucks, They're going to make a push to really get him into AEW. Tony Khan has released a statement on Twitter basically saying that he thinks that they are in the forefront of this race of bringing Okada to AEW. They've already brought in a major star in Will Ospreay this year. I know that he's still finishing up his dates. He hasn't really made a splash on the AEW show yet to really help them out. I don't know why they made such a big deal out of his signing months ago, to the point where we haven't seen anything. But I think maybe they were trying to play a little bit of catch up with the whole CM Punk announcement, and then it's kind of like the bad press with him leaving the company, that they had to this is still a place that people want to go to, kind of thing. It's funny when you look back on how Okada became friends with the Young Bucks. It was kind of like when Okada came over and he was in TNA, he was just kind of like pushed aside with a lot of those those wrestlers that were in the X division kind of thing, and he didn't really have a lot of acquaintances. He didn't really have a lot of friends. And TNA was basically just going to beat him up on the show. He was just going to be a fall guy. They wanted him to do a blade job. At that point in his career, I think that he was scared to do it. Maybe he didn't know how to do it. And I think he was smart enough to know that it didn't really make sense why he was doing it. And, he went to the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks didn't really have a lot of pull in the company, but they actually went to bat for him and made sure that it didn't happen. To the point that when, the Young Bucks found their way out of TNA, because it was actually costing them money to go to work for them, they thought that going to TNA was going to, build exposure in them to move up the card and be bigger names. They ended up splitting them up and trying them as singles wrestlers, which did not work at all. And there was no real connection to where they were going to get it back together. Once Okada went back to New Japan and he's kind of established himself as being a star, he actually called the Young Bucks to come to Japan. When they came over to Japan, that's when they joined the Bullet Club, and that's when they really got that traction as being, some of the main names that there are in the business. They made the acquaintances in Kenny Omega, in Cody Rhodes, and that's what's kind of led to, Tony Khan and building the whole AEW brand. Where would we really be if that weird friendship in TNA back then could have happened? WWE, they're a major company. They're trying to make a splash. The TKO deal, I think it's working for them, but when it really comes to the stock price, since the day of it's kind of bringing WWE on board, I think they're down 20%. they got to find a way to make a splash and bring this back together. Normally, every time there's a TV deal, every single time that they re-up on their network deal, definitely when the WrestleMania money starts rolling up, the WWE stock used to decline at that time of the year. Definitely, they're going to want to get back to their stockholders and tell them that good shit's going on. Bringing in a big name Okada, I don't think is going to roll in to the stock market deal, where people start investing money and the stock price starts going up. But honestly, it couldn't hurt to add another name. Definitely, you look at Roman Reigns. I think he was under 15 matches wrestled last year. Definitely, he's trying to keep himself healthy to the point where Hollywood calls, he can go make a movie. I know that he made the Hobbs and Shaw thing, but I haven't. That seems like forever ago. So I mean, is he just trying to stay healthy? Is he just trying to stay off the road? The guy's not Andre the Giant. He's Roman fucking Reigns. He's a star, but your champion needs to fucking wrestle. That's what it really comes down to in my mind. You got to put somebody in that spot that is able to be there. A Japanese star, definitely when Nakamura came over, which feels like forever ago. I'm guessing off the top of my head right now, 6 years ago. He's a guy that hasn't touched the championship. He won the Royal Rumble. He had a championship match against AJ Styles. In a weird way, that match ended in disqualification. It definitely wasn't the match that we thought we were going to get. That was a rematch from the Wrestle Kingdom match. It wasn't even close. So putting the belt on a Japanese star is kind of weird. We got to know where his English speaking skills are. It's not like they're really going to give him a manager to interpret for him. We don't need somebody like, the great Khali and, was it Daivari? I think Daivari was this guy. I don't really remember that they did his promos for him. So that's kind of a question mark on what they're going to do. But I mean, we all remember when AJ Styles came out. We knew it was going to happen. It was one of the worst secrets that the world was in the world of wrestling as we got closer to the Royal Rumble. But I think if Okada came out for the Royal Rumble, I think it would blow the doors off that place. So I'm looking forward to it. Not sure if it's going to happen, but you're watching this video, so you think it's going to happen sometime too.